It's an honor for me to be here. I've been in the industry. I've been doing DJing since I was 15 years old. I loved the opportunity to inspire people when it comes to the dance floor, watching people have a great time. And I know a lot of you guys have that same passion. I really grew into the passion of lighting design. I actually went to school for art and also computer graphics, multimedia web design, things like that. So it really allowed me to look at how I can use that into my events. And as soon as I started doing that, it really helped me take my events to the next level. And I know that's exactly why you guys are here today. And I want to make sure that we give you that opportunity to build your business and make it better in the lighting. So we're here to represent Chauvet DJ, and you know, we're very fortunate because as you've heard with the FlareCon, we've got cutting edge technology that is going to be amazing. I know it's going to help out a lot of people at the beginning level up to an advanced level. So we're going to walk you through a little bit on those things. We have some of the new products that we're going to talk about a little bit here today. And at the end of the session, we're going to have a little Q&A and see if we can answer some questions that you guys might have and kind of go from there. So cool. To start things off, how many of you guys currently do lighting design? How many of you guys are currently in lighting? Okay. How many of you are looking to get into it? Getting deeper into it? How many of you just realized you're at the wrong seminar? Okay. Well, it's good. I'm glad you guys are here. So we're going to get started. What we're going to talk about today, we're going to give you the how-to, how to create an ambiance from start to finish. And that's exactly how we set this room up. You know, last year we had the uplights going, we had moving heads creating a beautiful scenery, and when your brides and grooms walk into a room, or mitzvahs or whatever it is, they look at a room and it looks like this. It's fluorescent lights. It's, you know, it doesn't create that atmosphere yet. And what we're going to do is we're going to start like this, and we're going to create the ambiance from start to finish, adding uplighting, adding wash lighting, adding pin spotting, monograms. And again, it's going to show you the opportunities that you can do in a plain room and really create something special. The next thing, we're going to build the inventory. How do you start deciding what lights are going to work best for you? I can tell you, not every single light that is out there is probably the best fit for you, but we're going to show you techniques that you can utilize to capitalize in your market. The new product releases. There is a lot of new products out there right now. One of the things that I have always been in love with the 350. I love the light because it blends in nice with the scrim. I got to touch the 355Z. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet. I fell in love with that thing last night. We're programming it for the first time, and it's pretty amazing. And we're going to show you some of the features on those things. So we'll talk about some of the new products. We're going to show you how to exceed expectations and how to use your lighting design in a networking setting. How you can network with photographers, banquet facilities, how you can capitalize with those people, and it'll help you in your business. We're gonna show you how to charge for effects and figure out your return on investment. Truthfully, if I can't get my return on investment in 5 shows, I'm probably not interested in that fixture. Probably not interested in that light. So keep that in mind when you're looking at return on investment. Improve setup time and aesthetics. I can't tell you how much time I can save because of a Freedom Series or because of the Easy Pins. Actually, I can tell you because I'm going to tell you. And there's a lot of great things when it comes to these fixtures. Not just the setup time, but when I talk about aesthetics, and you probably have noticed, you know, we have uplighting throughout the room here, and there's no power cords, there's no DMX cables. It's all done through the DMX DeFi system, which allows us to communicate with all these different lights, and we'll show you how you can utilize those lights and make your lighting design better, make it more effective. We're going to show you how to upsell the upsell, and a lot of people are probably trying to figure out what that means. It's okay, I'm still trying to figure that out too, but we'll talk about it. No, I do know what it is. Okay, turning ordinary into extraordinary. Basically, we're going to look at a room like this, and we have some different examples of some of the work that we've done in the past. So you'll be able to see the before, and then you'll be able to see the after. And it's simple things that every single person in this room can do. All you have to do is use your imagination and utilize your lighting to its fullest potential. It's that simple. So we're going to go ahead and move forward. Taking control. And like I said, we're going to start from here and we're going to create the ambiance like we would want at our events. Okay? So right now we have fluorescent lights, we have cam lights on. Nothing really, makes you want to come into this room and make it inviting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take control of the room. We're going to take down some of the lighting that's in-house. And as a professional, sorry guys, as a professional, you have to be able to control the lights that are going on in the room. Oh, that's accepting. Yeah. If you are in a facility that has large windows, maybe it's behind the head table, okay? Maybe they're off on the side. Make sure if there are blinds that you control them to how you want to create the atmosphere, how you want to create the ambiance. If it's behind the head table, and perfect example, we have a facility in our place it's got a country club view. So head tables usually set up where the large windows are at. You can see this beautiful ambiance of the golf course. It's amazing. If the bride and groom want that, you need to make sure that you keep those things in mind. Don't close the windows because you want to make your lighting show up. Okay? The new technology of these lights, they're bright. You don't need to have them at full capacity through the entire evening. And people talk about battery saving and things like that. Run your fixtures at 60%. That's what I'm doing. And then as soon as the dance starts, if you want to bring up the lighting a little bit more, the intensity, I'd recommend doing that. The other things, if you have doors that are open, like right now we have doors in the hallways that are open, we have a side door over there. If those doors don't need to be open, then shut them. Okay, are they going to be open during the event? If they aren't, then shut them so that way you know exactly what the room is going to look like. Okay? Fluorescent lighting, one of my biggest pet peeves. It's the left one, right?
Yes.
Right. All right, I'm going to have to quit for me, Jamie. Sorry, man. Fluorescent lighting is one of my biggest pet peeves. Fluorescent lighting is such a stale light. It really can bust a mood in an instance. And you want to make sure that if there's fluorescent lighting, if you have to bring in extra lights to make it bright into that room or to make it safe, then make sure you bring extra lights. But talk to a couple or talk to whoever you're visiting with regarding their event, corporate events. There's times where we'll bring in ellipsoidals and we'll bring in wash lights and we'll bring all this stuff in and we'll turn all their fluorescents off. And again, that's important because you want to create the atmosphere in the room. The next thing is dimming the cam lights or the chandeliers, which is what we did here. These chandeliers, we dimmed them down. We took the cam lights out. And then also know where your switches are at. Okay? If you're walking into a facility for the first time, make sure you sit down with the banquet captain or whoever's involved and ask them, where are your controls so I can adjust the lights? If they say, well, we don't do that here, well, then you need to have them do that. You need to have them dim the lights down so it does create that nice ambiance. Let's go, and then the next thing we want to go into is the uplighting. Okay? People always ask, is uplighting out? I'll answer that question here in a second. Brides and grooms, couples, whoever, I don't know who's planning the event or if it's a mitzvah or whatever it is, they always want to know, do you do uplighting? How many of you guys get that question on the phone? Okay? How many of them say, do you do ambiance and patterns and textures? How many of you guys get that question on the phone? No, because they don't know anything besides uplights. So when we're doing uplighting, again, uplighting, this is your foot in the door. This is your opportunity for them to ask you a question about lighting. If they say, do you do uplighting? Say, absolutely. But you know what else we do? And then you can go into that laundry list of things that you can provide for their event to give them that extra ambiance. Because if you're just doing uplighting, you're going to fall behind. And that's exactly why I bring up this point right here, which I'll get to in a second. But uplighting is a must because, again, it is your foot in the door. You have to do uplighting. Is uplighting on the way out? I'm going to tell you it is. The reason I'm telling you that, because if all you're doing is putting a single color up a wall, you're going to get outsold by your competition, you're going to get outsold by the facility, and you're going to get outsold by yourself. People want more than just a single color up a wall. And right now you can see we have our red in the room. We're going to show you how to utilize this to its fullest potential. So let's start looking at techniques. First of all, some of the things that we look at when it comes to, go ahead, Jamie. Some of the things that we look at is what does the room, what's in the room that we can utilize to make it stand out even more? How can we make this light look better than just up a plain white wall? We look at textures on the walls. We look at what is the wallpaper. Sometimes wallpaper gets too busy and you don't want to accent it. Okay? Find things that you do want to accent and then make sure that that light is creating a nice ambiance. So maybe it's a pillar, maybe it's, like I said, the brick wall here. You know, this is just all quartzite stone. All we did is we put an uplight on it and you can see all the textures that you create. This is more visual appealing to clients and to their guests than if it's just on a plain white wall. So look at the room and find out how can I make this light look that much better, okay? The nice thing with these freedoms as well is you don't have to be just at this spot because that's where the outlet's at, okay? That's why they call it freedom. You have the freedom to put it wherever you want. Jamie, you want to talk about your picture?
This is a pretty plain venue that we work at. It's just kind of brick. I didn't realize until we uplit brick the first time how cool it was. Those textures pick up all of the light and they create shadows and depth, and it's just really, the transformation in this particular venue is incredible. And I think there are some more pictures in here later of this same place. Plain brick building, you put uplighting in it, you put a monogram on the wall, and it's pretty incredible.
Some of the other things you can see here too, you know, this is all wood up here. Even on wood, it makes a great accent. Vellum, or not vellum, what is it called? What are they? Gauze or Gosmere? Gosmere? Does that sound right? Yeah. Gosmere. If you just have some of that stuff behind a head table and you light that up, again, it creates texture, it creates an interest. Some of the other things, if you use, how many of you ever uplit like a screen door screen? Have you guys ever used a screen before? I wish I would have put pictures in there now. But if you just go get some steel screen and just bunch it up, get it as wrinkled as you can, and then just set it up against your wall, and then get two uplights. Get a green and a blue. You put one uplight on one side, you put one uplight on the other side. That screen's going to catch all these different colors, and it's going to give you a very cool texture. So keep that in mind if you're doing, you know, if you're doing a mitzvah, you want to do something unique. If you're doing a birthday party, proms, oh my gosh. When they have a themed event, we did a Cirque show, or a Cirque themed prom event. And if you've ever seen the show O, how many of you guys have seen the show O? Cirque show O, okay? If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Their lighting is amazing. But in their entire ceiling, if you look up there, I'm pretty sure it's not screen door screen, but it's that same exact texture, and all they did was just put a couple uplights in there, a couple lights in there, to give it some different textures and some different coloration. So again, think of some of the textures that are out there that you're utilizing in facilities, and if it's not in there, you know, barn doors. I don't know what you guys are using for your props and things like that. But always look at how can I make this better? How can I put this light in the right position to give it more ambiance? Let's go to the next thing, Jamie. Angles. The nice thing about these freedoms, I'm going to grab this one over here. Oh, I can't grab that one. I'm going to grab this one. So if you guys want to kind of move your attention over this direction, the nice thing about these new freedoms is there's actually a little kickstand. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a kickstand that pops out. This allows you to actually angle the light so that way it creates probably a, I don't know, 45-degree angle. We're all agree on that? Cool. And it's not just that angle. I mean, there's multiple angles all the way in between there. So again, there's a lot of great features for that. And if you're not using angles in your uplighting, start looking at how you can utilize angles. Because what it does is, and we'll talk about this when we get into monograms and things, what it does is it allows to grab the attention to the monogram, and it doesn't distract from the monogram, it doesn't cut through the monogram, and it also, this is a huge facility. If we would have just done uplights all the way up the wall like that, it would look like a barcode. It would have been annoying. So what we did is we just did simple, regular uplights, and then we just created this V effect to kind of frame in that monogram. And again, what it does is it fills up the wall, and it just creates a little bit more interest as opposed to just the same exact thing over and over. So keep that in mind. Angles are a big thing. Spacing is the next thing. There's a couple places that you want to utilize spacing correctly. Okay? If we would have done that large room and we would have had the uplights every 5 feet, again, it basically becomes a wash. It would have taken away the element of what uplighting truly is. So places where you can utilize spacing a little bit tighter, head tables for sure is one of the most popular. Around dance floors like you see here, the one thing you want to keep in mind is if you have them too close, you're now going to have beam overlap. Okay, so right now these are probably 7 feet apart, and the beam does not cross into the other beam. As soon as you start doing that, now you're going to get color mixing up here. Okay, if you don't want color mixing up there, then don't put them so close together. Places where you're going to want larger spacing is, of course, large rooms. You don't want to put too many in a row where it's overwhelming. Yes, you want to create an ambiance, but don't blow them away with trying to light up the room because you have 120 uplights and you want to use them all. Okay? Utilize good spacing. It's going to really make your events look more put together, and it's going to give it better technique.
And just to compare and contrast that, this is one of my photos. Sometimes the venue is laid out in a way that it says where you're going to put your lights pretty much. Don't try to overdo it. Don't try to, don't try to go too far if the venue is laid out in a way that just makes sense. Just use what's there. Be creative, not overly creative. So.
The other thing I want to point out too in positioning is, and actually I put this here, this rip was here last year as well. And the reason I put this light here is because I want you to think about these things. If there's flaws in the wall, if there's a fire alarm right here, or if there's an exit sign right here or something, if there's something that is going to interfere with that light, then find a different spot for it. Okay, move that light maybe 3 feet to the left or 3 feet to the right. So again, positioning is going to be very important, and don't bring out flaws in the room because it causes a distraction. So alternative uses to create uplighting. How many of you guys have seen the core 3 or the core bar? Anybody have the core bar? No? Okay. So the core bar is actually a great fixture because this is a fixture that can be put up on a stand, and it can be a nice flood that's going to be on your dance floor or however you want to utilize it. The other thing, we talked about using angles. If you put this behind a head table and you angle these, you can create a very cool effect just by using a core bar. So keep those things in mind, how you can utilize a simple fixture to create very cool and light elements. The other core fixtures, there's the core 3x3, which is, I don't know if you've seen it, it's like it's basically 9 different cones. If you really need an intense uplight, that's a very intense uplight. It's a very cool effect. They also have the 3x1, which actually becomes more of a wash light just because it does have a nice wide spread. But that's how you can utilize those a little bit differently. The wedge tri and the easy wedge tri, they're actually down at the showroom. These lights work great for uplights. The nice thing about the easy wedge tri is you can utilize it as an uplight, but you can also put it underneath a cocktail table. And same thing with all the freedoms, you can put them under cocktail tables, which allows you, excuse me, which allows you to, basically we zip tie, there's 2 little hoops. You can zip tie it right to the base of that cocktail table. So if anybody moves that cocktail table, the light goes with it, okay? Keep that in mind. You don't want them to knock your light over, you don't want them to break your light. But again, utilizing something that's simple, that actually goes in, it's one of the truss kits that Truss created. It's supposed to go inside that truss as a glow or as a warmer, but when utilized as a uplight or utilized as a cocktail table accent, again, you're utilizing one fixture to create multiple things. The Intimidator Wash Zoom 350 IRC. How many of you guys, anybody have any of these yet? No? It's got a lot of shopping to do. Okay, so that's what these are right here, the Intimidator Wash Zoom 350s. We're gonna go ahead and get those turned on for you so you can see exactly what those do. Now, how many of you have ever thought of having moving uplighting, motion uplighting? How cool would that be, right? It's exactly what you can create with these. So Jeff, actually, can you get these off for me? And as you can see, now we're creating this motion effect, okay? Obviously, we actually had it going all the way across, but since the screen was in the way, it caused some issues there. So this makes a great uplight because, again, you have some movement, you can create some interest. You can actually do pixel mapping with this. So if you want to create some different shadow, depending on what the textures are on the wall, if you pixel map that, it's going to give you some really cool effects.
Not wireless, right?
They're not wireless, no. A DeFi box, connect that to that, and you can use the FlareCon, the new FlareCon system. You can use that to communicate with it though. So the next thing we want to show you is the degree angles of this thing. We have that? Right? So you can go from an uplight to a wash just like that. And the reaction on this is so fast that you can create chasing patterns, chasing sequences. You can do shutter sequences. There's so much that you can do with a simple light like this. And then we're going to show you in a little bit, we're going to show you a little bit more detail on how you can utilize this fixture to create a full room ambiance. The Freedom Series, we talked a little bit about the Freedom Series. There are the new Freedoms out right now. How many of you guys are hoping to walk home with a good set of Freedoms this week? Okay, if you have not looked at them, again, I encourage you to go check them out. The nice thing with the Freedom Series is, again, there's 3 options. There's an RGB fixture, there's an RGBA fixture, there's an RGBAW UV fixture, okay? Now, how many of you think UV would just be completely pointless in an uplight? Raise your hand, be honest. Everybody understands the qualities of the UV in the uplight?
I don't.
No? Okay, fantastic. I'd be happy to explain that for you. So how many of you get requests for a deep purple when it comes to the lighting colors? Okay? So in an RGBAW fixture, RGBA fixture, RGB fixture, you mix blue at full capacity, full intensity, and then you bring your reds down probably to like 4%. Okay, but you're not getting a pure purple. You start getting in some pink. So when you bring in a UV and you have that color and you start doing a little bit more color mixing, that's when you get your plums. That's when you can get your eggplants or whatever colors you're going for. Again, in my area, in my market, purple is huge. And I encourage you guys to look at the hex figures or the hex fixtures, because if you're not getting purple now, you will get purple soon. People are looking for those unique colors. The hex give you so much flexibility. If you want a very, very hot pink, I wish we had hexes in here. If you want a really hot pink, bring in your UV and bring in red. You'll see the most intense hot pink you've ever seen. If they have the hex down, I actually haven't had a chance to go down to the showroom, but if they have it down there, check it out, ask them and see if they can mix the red and the UV together. I guarantee you'll be blown away on how intense that hot pink is. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. The next part is ceiling wash. And this was a facility that we work in. This was actually an old church that they built, or that they turned into a banquet facility. And by utilizing your lighting, you can create a nice ambiance into the ceiling. How many of you are currently doing any ceiling washing? Okay, if you're not doing ceiling washing, you will be soon. Ceiling washing is where things are going in the lighting. With this, and actually you'll see a picture later on in the presentation, it'll show you the other angle when we start talking about monogram placements and things like that. But the nice thing with creating a ceiling wash is it actually reflects back into the guests as well. And it gives you, because otherwise, let's see, they have, I don't know if you can see them or not, there's some cans up there, but they're fluorescent cans. They're all or nothing. We can't dim them, we can't do anything. So what this did is it allowed us to use the ambiance in the light from the ceiling wash and create a nice ambiance down below. We actually, any of you guys have the original Rain 56 cans? Yeah? Okay, it's okay. So these are a very lightweight aluminum, okay? So what we did is it wasn't the actual rod, but the mounting bracket for the curtain rod, we could actually just mount them right on there, and it works perfect, okay? There are options of, you know, you can either do a single stand, like if you take a glow totem and you use a single individual post, okay? You can clamp it right onto there. You can angle it right into the ceiling if you need to. The best thing, obviously, is going to be the zoom wash. That's going to give you the most intense when it comes to ceiling washes, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. I'm sorry? Flat ceilings? Again, you kind of have to go to something with a wide spread. If you're doing an uplight, again, it's just going to be a very straight and narrow beam. Linear effects work great. I have 95 color, the original color strips. And we'll talk about color rails, we'll talk about color strips, and that's a good point. Basically, you just have to find the right position and then just kind of cast that light up into the ceiling the best that you can. But again, I'm not gonna lie, the 350s, we're gonna fill this ceiling here in a second, and I'll show you how much it makes a difference. So actually, let's go and do that. Let's go ahead and let's fire these things up. So, we showed you how to utilize these as a regular uplight. Okay, you got the tight beam, and then you spread it into the wide beam. We're not gonna spread the wide beam yet.
Sorry, let's start over here.
Okay, so right now.
Come to the tight. The wide, then the tight.
All right. So there's the wide beam, which we showed you earlier. Now what we're gonna do is we're now gonna aim these into the ceiling, but we're gonna have the tight beam right now. Because when we have the tight beam, you can utilize these as a spot, okay? So let's go ahead and get those. We actually aimed these at the chandeliers. Utilize what's in your room, make an accent, whatever you want to do. We're going to show you how to utilize elements in your room as we get a little bit deeper into spots and things like that. So right now, you have a nice little cast of light going into the chandelier. As soon as you spread that beam into a wide spread, you add some color, now you can create the entire ceiling into a purple. So just two of those lights making all of that shine purple. You know? So again, the other nice thing about these are also IRC remote. Okay? If you don't know how to do programming or ShowXpress or anything like that, all you have to do is just get the IRC remote. You can make that light do what the IRC programming allows you to do.
What does that still for?
You know what? I wish I knew how much they went for. I would go talk. Music Trends is the guys downstairs representing. Yep, go visit with them. I'm sure they could find you a great deal.
Yes, downstairs in the booth. We'll be happy to talk to you.
There you go. Jeff will pedal something for you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about wash lighting. Wash lighting creates a wide spread of light. Okay, I actually love wash lighting. Wash lighting has been one of those things that we've been doing for a long time. When the color strip first came out, those were actually my first, what I considered uplights at the time, was the color strips. The color strips are bulletproof for me, but I can tell you the technology that they have now in the PIX, the PIX IP and the PIX M, and we're going to talk a little bit about each one of those here in a little bit. But the color mixing is so much better in those because of the technology that they've put into those. How many of you guys have color strips? Okay, so the color strips, the way they're broken up is it's red, green, blue. They're blocks. Okay, when you color mix, you will see strips of red, strips of green, and strips of blue up the wall, usually about 2 feet up from the actual fixture. The way their technology is all the mixing actually happens in the actual rail. It happens in the fixture. So right from that fixture, it's that color all the way up. So again, they have those fixtures down there. Make sure you take a look at them. I'm going to tell you the advantages of each one of those as we get a little bit deeper into this. But as we go into wash lighting, we're going to talk about how to create that wide spread of light. We're also going to talk about where you would use a wash light as opposed to using uplighting. We're going to talk about how to utilize it when it comes to draping. How many of you guys do draping? Anybody do draping? Okay. If you're doing draping, you should be doing wash lighting as well. Wash lighting creates a very cool accent. and it doesn't, again, create a monotonous overload in a single strip of, or a single sequence of lights. And we'll show you a little bit more into that. The other thing is I talked about in that monogram picture with the angle, okay? I talked about making sure that you don't cut into the monogram or into a pattern or texture. Okay, we'll go into a little bit more details on that. And then also we're going to give you a little bit of secrets regarding how to utilize the Freedom Series and making that into a wash light. So we got some really cool things there. Go ahead, Jim. So as you see in this picture, this room, this facility has very small walls, and it has a lot of nooks and crannies, and also right here, this is a countertop, okay? It's hard for us to do uplights, especially when we only have about 5 feet, 5 or 6 feet right here, okay? That's why we use a wash light. When using a wash light, it allows that beam to spread all the way through the wall, and it glows that entire wall. The other thing here, again, I mean, we could have put a couple uplights in there, but in this facility, wash lighting is the best way to go. The other thing is back here, and you can see, and I'm gonna actually show you this picture here in a little bit. I'm gonna tell you exactly why you need to use a Freedom. But you can see we have the wash light here, and basically all the way around the room, we just created that nice, that glow of a rose pink. So again, if you're working in nooks and crannies, or if you have small walls to deal with, wash lighting is a great option. Go ahead, Jody. Yes.
Question.
Yep.
You said that wall was a little not that high for uplighting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the minimum height of the wall that you should have to use uplighting?
You know what? It really does come down to it. It comes down to a design. If you're comfortable with the way it looks, and your couple is comfortable with the way it looks, then I mean, do what you feel the best. There's no rule of thumb. Again, with me only having 5 feet, for me to put a beam up there, it just would have been a waste of space. It really didn't. It wouldn't have gave the light purpose. So by washing the entire thing, it made it stand out. It made it actually blend in with the room a little bit more, and it didn't look like it was sitting on a countertop because it looked like the rest of the room. Yeah. Okay, so I talked about draping. If you ever work in a facility that's doing draping behind a head table or anything like that, utilize your wash lights to basically fill that draping with color. Now, if we would have gone and we would have done just uplight, 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 it would have created a distraction, and again, it just takes away from the design element. So keep those things in mind. Here, same thing. All we did was we just put a nice blue haze behind all the draping. This was actually a pretty high scale event. We had countertops put into the windowsills so we could put table skirting or like a draping, so we didn't have any space. I mean, everything was draped. There was not a single piece of wall that you could see in that facility. Yeah?
With the draping, are you guys in front or behind the drapes?
Whenever we're doing draping, we like to stay behind the drape, because if you work with draping, you'll know that the base plates are typically a minimum 12 inches, okay? Which means you have about 6 inches to work with between the wall and between the actual curtain itself. Now there's two things to think about. You can either reflect that light off of the wall and let it bounce back into the draping, or you can basically put the angle of that into the draping. And again, it's knowing your facility, it's knowing the reflection properties. If it's a white wall, I would aim it at the wall so it reflects back into the draping. If it is a dark wall, you're gonna wanna go into the draping. And the reason I usually just go straight up with it, because again, my beam angles are going to allow me to hit the wall and the draping, and it creates a nice clean flow all the way through. If you aim it right into the draping, you're gonna get a lot of intensity down in the bottom, and it's just gonna fade as you go up. So just play around with it. I'm not saying that there's a method that works better. It's just knowing the facility, knowing the reflective properties of the wall, and then also your draping. There's different styles of draping. There's fabric draping, there's banjo draping that has like that sparkle in it. Just play around with it, and you'll know which one's gonna be the best technique. Go ahead, Jamie. We talked about the monograms, cutting into monograms, things like that. This is that same facility. This wedding couple, after they saw that blue one that you saw earlier, the slide before, she wanted this for her wedding. She wanted the same exact thing. But what we did is we added patterns to go down the walls, but we didn't want to create a distraction and cut into this monogram or cut into the gobos. So by creating a wash, it allowed us to actually wash the draping as opposed to, again, breaking things up. Here is a head table. We have patterns, we have a monogram, pattern, and then we actually put a light inside. These are little crystal pillars that we brought in. These here are the linear effects, and again, as the guests see this, they see a nice haze of blue behind the head table. And it creates a beautiful ambiance and it doesn't distract. Imagine, here's the kind of the rule of thumb when it comes to your patterns and textures. If you have a pattern that is horizontal, you don't want to cut something in there that's going to create a vertical distraction, okay? You never want to, would uplighting have worked here? Yes, it would, because my patterns are going up. You just didn't want to have the pattern so it looks like it's breaking up the pattern. Or you don't want to have your angle of your light so it's breaking up the pattern. So again, make sure that you don't have conflicting angles if you're going vertical or if you have things going horizontal. Question?
And you talked about the monogram in this. Are
Mm-hmm.
you using an air wall halo or is it being projected on the blue one?
This one here?
From the back, yes.
We mount into the ceiling. And again, check with the facility before you do any mounting into the ceiling. We have a lot of trust in our market. A lot of people see us as the professional when it comes to the lighting technique, so they understand that we're going to respect their facility. Just keep that in mind when you're doing this type of work. The other thing to think about is, if you're mounting things into the ceiling, and actually I got to show you the easy gobo here in a second. But if you're mounting into the ceiling and you need to run a cord, if your ceilings are white, you should be using a white cord. You don't ever want to use anything that people are going to notice. You want it to blend in. How many of you guys, does anybody watch my shop time videos? Anybody seen them? Okay. I have a video series on YouTube and it's called Shop Time. Shop Time is just videos that I take when I'm in the field or I'm out in the shop. I talk about cords, I talk about mounting, I talk about the glow totems. Anything that's going to make you better in your lighting I guarantee there's a video out there. There's over 75 videos that show you how to utilize your lights, how to utilize your equipment at its fullest potential. So it's free. If you want to send a donation, fantastic, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to make sure that we can educate the lighting industry to put you at your fullest potential. So let's go to the next one, Jamie. Okay.
This next one here is a pattern on the wall that we did the one on the right first. Bride saw it and she loved it. After listening to what Jeremy just said, I would probably try looking at washing that wall the next time. But we were very happy with the way this turned out. So you can take with pattern projection, I'm using 4 ellipsoidals, like we have 2 of them up here. I'm using 4 of those to shoot this pattern onto the end of the wall from right here in the center from the air wall. Just pretty much what we're doing right here today. But you can take with pattern projection and make that ugly air wall over there, and it's not that particular air wall that's ugly, they all are. They can't help it. But if you do pattern projection well, you can take an ugly air wall and make it the center of attention and the best looking wall in the entire room. So there's a lot to be said for pattern projection. Now, going back to the video thing, because I want a commercial too if he gets one, we both do videos. We both do them very differently. Jeremy and I have very, very different styles and approaches to learning. It's why I really like working with him so much, because he thinks of things that I never thought of. So we both do have channels and we both review a lot of products. Check us out. He'll say things about a product that I don't ever think about saying, and I'll say things that he doesn't think about saying. It's a nice mix of getting a good balance on a product, all right? So pattern projection, take an ugly wall, make it a fantastic wall, and just really make it stand out.
We are going to talk about patterns, and we're going to talk about gobos here in a second. One of the things, and he talked about he would have washed the wall. One of the things that you can put in, like the LFS 75, first of all, there's a color wheel in there. So if you wanted to change it a certain color, you could. With the Gobo Shop 50, that you can actually put, you can get Roscoe gels, you can get Apollo gels. All you do is you just slip a gel inside that slot, and you can make that turn color. So if you wanted to do like a nice light purple and then the uplighting would have been a deep purple, kind of create some contrast, and we're going to talk about contrast here in a little bit. Those are some options as well. So if you don't have color gels, it doesn't matter if you have an effect with a color wheel, I would still recommend getting color gels. The LF75, the front plate actually slides out. You can put a color gel right in the front there if you want to find your own color besides what's in the color wheel. I talked about turning basically something simple into something that is very inviting. And this here, again, we brought in some draping, and all we did was cast a light, a nice, nice purple up this draping. We put some patterns on there, and again, we'll go into patterns here in a little bit. But this here, Jamie had talked about, going into a brick room, shining on some, putting some lighting on brick, and the effect it makes. And I will show you the before and after of this facility. This was a grand opening corporate event, and it's in they're a computer server system. So SDN Communications, they host thousands and thousands of tera, gigas, whatever it is. They host all that stuff, and there's no windows in this place. It's just a very stale, all concrete building, and we're going to show you how to utilizing that in a different way. So this here, what we do is, and this is one of our biggest things that we've been pushing, and it has been just hot. This is a contrasting, what we call a contrasting wash light, and basically it is a uplight next to a wash light, next to an uplight, next to a wash light. Okay, it's that simple. But this here creates. This was a masquerade party, and if you do any events, it doesn't matter if it's a mitzvah, it doesn't matter if it's a birthday, it doesn't matter if it's a wedding, ask them what their theme is, okay? When you figure out their theme, figure out what colors are incorporated with that theme. Jamie and myself, we actually have a workshop in Las Vegas. I don't know if you're gonna be at Las Vegas DJ show. We're going to talk about how to find the theme and how to create the theme around what their perspective is, okay? We'll talk about some of those things. I mean, there's tons of things that we're gonna talk about, but this here, the contrasting is very popular, okay? I'm going to talk about how you don't want to conflict with the contrasting. As you can see here, this is that, I showed you that purple draping with the patterns. This is that same exact look. Again, we had a bride that saw this. She said, I want that for my wedding. And all we did was we had a red wash here, and then we angled an uplight to go this way in a purple. So you can see how it goes from a purple into a red tone. Do you guys see that? Okay. So it's creating a contrast, but it's not distracting. Now imagine if we would have done red and lime green. Okay, it would have looked hideous. So if you're doing contrasting, if you're doing a ceiling wash and your walls are a different color, make sure that they don't conflict with each other, but make sure that there's a difference. If you're doing red uplighting and red ceiling wash, there's no point of even doing the ceiling wash because it's doing the same exact thing as your walls. Make it different. Change it up a little bit. The secrets to creating a wash. Okay, so we talked about cost-efficient ways to do this. And I actually own, oh my gosh, I think I own 70 of these filters. Jamie's going to show you exactly how to utilize the freedom that you see here and how you can create a wash on that. So these are a 60x1 filter that Chauvet Professional actually creates. Okay, this is a professional filter, but when you put that on there, you can see the spread of beam that it does on doing it on a simple uplight. So if you want something, if you want the uplight effect and you want the wash effect, these are a great investment. They're going to cost you $25, but could you imagine buying a linear effect for $200, $300? Okay, I mean, I would still encourage that because that's what we do. We still have those. But these give you the great possibilities when it comes, or it gives you a lot of possibilities because of the spread that it creates on a simple uplight. I'm sorry? The freedoms? I'm not sure. I know I saw the show specials. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I know they've got killer deals on all the freedoms right now. So. They do work on other lights. You can actually trim them. You can cut them to whatever light you have or that you need. It looks like a laminate, yes. But the way the configuration on the film is, it actually spreads, because you can actually tighten up, once you show how you can tighten up that. So right now, you've got it's probably about a 30-degree angle on the beam, okay? If you spread it, it goes 60, and then if you turn it the other way, you actually tighten the beam up even tighter.
And if you plot it on the ceiling, if I turn it this way, it spreads the beam here. Watch the ceiling where we come out and pick up the ceiling. Because now we spread the beam that way. It's taking that round beam of light and making it a bar of light. Just like you see there. But you turn it one way, it comes out. Turn it the other way.
So just seeing what he did right there gave me an awesome idea. So imagine if you had a hallway going into your event and you angled it so that way it went up the wall, but it also created this arch feel.
Yeah.
Okay, how cool would that be?
Oh, that's sexy.
Right?
That would be $35.
I'm gonna go do that right now. Okay, so the other options, again, I have 95, 96 color strips because they're bulletproof. They're an amazing light when they first came out, and they're still an amazing light if you ask me. But the options that they have right now, the color band picks, you can actually pixel map. Anybody understand pixel mapping? How many of you guys get pixel mapping? Okay. In ShowXpress, you can actually pixel map all these. So if you want to stack a bunch of them, you can create text scroll. You can do text scrolling. There's just so many options when it comes to a pix like that. It also allows you to, again, they're individual diodes, they're RGB, and obviously you can make whatever color you want. So there's some great features with the color band pix. The color pix, or the color band pix IP, this is an outdoor fixture, and we use these a ton. I have so much advantage in my market because I'm the only one with IP fixtures. Nobody else in my market will even try to touch an outdoor fixture or an outdoor event or they will, but when it rains on their equipment, then they're calling their insurance company, and their insurance company's not going to cover them. So the reason IP is so important is because you have moisture, you have, I don't know, if, East Coast, if you have saltwater issues or anything like that in the air, these things are completely sealed. You have absolutely no problem. I don't recommend submersing them. Okay. They're 64, they're IP65, so they're not submersible, but you can basically shoot them with water. If you have a hose and you just spray them down, they're going to be fine. Again, I don't recommend doing these things. It's a safety feature, okay?
So
Yes?
So they're not bulletproof, they're actually water.
Did I put bulletproof?
Well, the color strips are bulletproof. Those lights
Oh,
have been
yeah,
on
yeah.
for 11 years. I mean, they've
No,
been kicked
don't
off.
shoot these. Don't shoot these.
Nor us.
These are waterproof. The other one I wanted to talk about was the IP Pix M, which is a movement, okay? We're gonna show you the wave. We're gonna show you the Intimidator waves here in a second, which is a Y movement. That's exactly what the M is, the Pix M. Basically, imagine this. If you had your uplighting up against the wall and your dance floor was right here, okay, you have this beautiful wash effect going on in the wall. As soon as that dance starts, all of a sudden that uplighting aims into the dance floor and creates a beautiful wash on your dance floor. What if you could wash your dance floor? So say you have a white dance floor that you're working with. You shoot the Pix M, you don't have to go over there and physically turn them down. All you do is you just have it programmed. So as soon as that first dance happens, all of a sudden the entire dance floor is illuminated, the bride and groom are dancing on it. How awesome is that? Yes, you can do it with these as well, yes. I'm sorry, these, I mean the 350 washes. So for those of you that can't see these. So the next thing I want to talk about is gobos and monograms. There's a lot of exciting things about gobos and monograms. Not just the fact that it personalizes someone's event, it makes it unique, but you have so many options when it comes to weddings, when it comes to mitzvahs, when it comes to corporate events. And I can tell you, when it comes to a corporate event, they don't care how much it costs. They just want their logo everywhere in the building. And if it's illuminating, how many of you guys have been to IKEA? Anybody go to IKEA? Do you guys have IKEA out here? Okay, so IKEA, if you walk through their building, everything is a gobo projector now. There's arrows in the middle of the hallway telling you which way you're supposed to walk. They have everything, all of their pricing is all gobos now. They don't print anything off. They don't have stickers on the floor. It's all gobos. And that's the advantages that we have in our industry, is we can utilize them in more than just one way. We can utilize them more than just a monogram, and more than just a, more than just a gobo or a pattern or a texture. Scripts and sayings, we're going to talk about those a little bit. Those things have been so hot for me. I've made so much money off of scripts and off of sayings, and I'm going to show you those here in a bit. Moving or static image projection, we're going to talk about that as well. The advantages of that, again, when it comes to a corporate event, and if you can create interest by someone's logo rotating on the floor or maybe scanning across the tent, which we've done, and it's been very popular, they'll pay extra for that because it creates that attention getter. And then also, I'm going to talk to you guys about this little guy. This just launched here at the show. If you haven't seen these things, that's I'm excited to show you. So go ahead. So going into the monograms and gobos. Sorry, Jamie, I forgot to take that out.
That's all right. Is Jeff Brown still in the room? Jeff is the guy that's in my market, and the reason that he said that, when I was loading up my slides and putting my pictures in, one of my lead lighting techs said, I don't know if that's our works or Jeff Brown's. And so I said, it doesn't matter, Jeff will be there anyway. It's an excellent example of a beautiful monogram on that same brick wall. Remember I said we'd come back to that building? That's the same building, but that looked incredible.
So one of the things that I want to point out, and I mean, this looks good. One of the things I want to point out is when you're doing monograms and you're doing gobos, you're doing anything with textures, anything like that, make sure that you're putting it on a surface that's not distracting. So in the original uplighting picture, when we saw it on the stone, if I try to put a gobo on there, it's not going to work. Okay. The facility where I talked about the contrasting lighting, okay, their wallpaper is so busy. If I put a monogram on there, it looks terrible. So make sure that your placement is done correctly. Make sure that if it's on the dance floor, that you're not going to have tables on the dance floor during dinner. Make sure that you're going to utilize your gobo to its fullest potential. And what I mean by that is, as soon as your dance floor gets packed, that gobo is going to disappear anyways. So if it's going to be on there for more than 2-3 hours, shoot the gobo on the dance floor, shoot it over the head table. We're going to talk about entrance gobos and things like that as well. Go ahead and go to the next slide there. Yes, I'm sorry, question?
One question, one comment. I was going to say, with your comments of busy wallpaper, I've kind of collected my own little Pinterest collection of uplighting examples from the internet. And what I've found, if you have a real ornate Baroque wallpaper or something with a lot of fleur-de-lis, what works best if that's the wall they want something on is to use very, very thin fonts. If you use the monograms, they're very thin.
Right.
That looks better because like that thick one you just had there a moment ago, it wouldn't be as good on a Baroque wallpaper because you'd be seeing it in the design. If you have something so thin that you can't see the design in the monogram, then it works on those busy papers.
Yeah, the more detail you have into it, or the thinner the detail, that's going to make a big difference as well. Yeah, absolutely.
The question I had was, what distance was that monogram at? And
Which one?
The last one or not?
The big one?
Yeah, the brick wall with the big monogram. What distance did you shoot that at?
Probably the same distance as the center of this room to the wall would be my guess. It's a 50-degree lens also, and so we went with a really wide lens so that we could get a lot of spread on it, and still keep and not lose too much light.
You weren't trying to mount that on that high ceiling, were you?
What's that?
You weren't trying to mount that on that high ceiling, were you?
Well, I didn't try to. I did.
Why not just put it on the ceiling?
Yes, ma'am. Which, by the way, if you do that, make sure that you get the extra insurance that says you can hang stuff over people's head. Because we do a lot, and I'm sure
Take a cherry picker in, or do you?
they have a cherry picker there that they let us use. But if you start hanging things over people's head a lot, make sure that you know what you're doing, that you're really careful about what you do. We hang a lot of stuff, but we're really careful about what we do. Safety cables are always used. Safety is always a concern, and probably the most important thing in my mind, at least it makes me feel better, is we have bought the insurance.
So one of the things, how many of you guys get the Disc Jockey News? Okay, decent. If you don't get the Disc Jockey News, make sure you check it out. Also, there's virtual training that they do. One of the virtual trainings that I talked about was gobo calculating. How many of you guys do gobo calculating? Anybody? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Okay, so there's a calculator out there. If you have, okay, for instance, right here we have the Gobo Shop 50. It is not a zoomable fixture, okay? But if I have that fixture on this side of the room and I'm shooting across the room, my gobo is going to be, or my image is going to be way too big, okay? So by calculating your gobo distance, you basically take the measurement of the room, you figure out what the degree angle of that light is, and then on the gobo itself, you actually make the image smaller. So the throw, when it goes across the room, is actually going to fit on the wall.